And get started with our last presentations of the day. Now, this one's a very cool presentation. I have been working with Stephanie. Okay, I've been working with her a little bit longer than I've been working with Maya. Sorry, Maya. In the rare disease community, we've worked on a ton of projects together. She is probably one of the rare disease communication leaders in our community, and she's going to do a presentation.
Thank you. And I'm going to, if you don't mind, I like to take a picture and then tweet it, because I feel like I should live what I preach about sharing your experience on social media. And I have been tweeting from the conference, actually for the Project AP handle, and then a little bit as my own handle. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take a picture first, probably two. I'm not really good at that. I'm just going to take it this way.
Come on, be like a celebrity.
Yeah, but then you get to see like my nostrils. So we're going to just do it this way. So we'll do it the two sides of the room. That was good. Thank you for the wave in the back. And then one from this side. Awesome. Well, thank you to Carrie for the introduction. I'm really just Kieran's warm-up act. So hopefully no one falls asleep during my presentation. I'm a rare disease patient also. I didn't know I had a rare disease until it caused a stroke when I was 29 and working on Capitol Hill. Fortunately, I recovered. And I don't even know when I got the diagnosis. I can't remember if I thought to ask if it was a rare disease, because my first question is, why did I have a stroke? And then, will I get better? But after I finished working for my local congressman, I worked at a trade association, and I had to get on Twitter for a social media, for a public policy issue, and I got on very, very grudgingly. But I started to connect with other rare disease advocates. And as I got more and more involved, I started to grow, really develop friendships who I got to know on social media. And as you know, especially if you're on a more of the ultra rare, you might be the only person in your city, in your state, and so the friends that you can make on social media can be really meaningful, and they can relate to your life in a way that other people can't. Just to start off, trying to get a sense of how many people are on different platforms. Could I get a show of hands of how many people are on Facebook? The friends that you can make on social media. Okay, most people. How about Twitter? And they can relate to your life. LinkedIn? And Instagram. Just to start off. Okay. Now, how many of you talk about being part of the 8P community on any of the 4 platforms? Okay, not quite as many hands as I wanted to see, but it's a good start. For those of you who might be saying, well, why bother? One way that there's a lot of different ways that you can help support any specific organization, whether it's Project 8P or since my rare disease doesn't impact me on a day-to-day basis, I am involved in advocacy for broader umbrella rare disease organizations. I was the Chief Patient Engagement and Communications Officer at the EveryLife Foundation for Rare Diseases. They host Rare Disease Week on Capitol Hill. And they have some other programs. And then I consulted for Global Genes for a year, and they have some wonderful programs and resources for the rare disease community, a few that I will mention. And so I tend to work on broader. And right now I don't have a lot of money to donate, but what I can do is I can use social media to help amplify their voices. So for instance, when I saw the video of that the local Fox News did with Bina, I shared it on social media as a way to raise awareness of Project 8P and of chromosome 8P in general. So I may not have a lot of money to donate right now, but I can donate my time, I can donate my energy, and I can donate my voice to help raise awareness. And you can do the same. Again, we have different skill sets, we have different resources, and social media can be one of them. And just a warning, I tend to put a lot of information on my slides so that people don't have to scribble, and there are links in there. I'll give Carrie and Bina permission. They'll be on the website. I'm happy to send them, so don't feel like if there's anything, I don't want to flatter myself, you'll want to write things down, but if you do, you can get the slides afterwards. So just a few, and I feel like we've talked about this a little bit when Carrie was talking about the importance of storytelling as a way of helping to relate, especially the newer diagnosed folks. as someone mentioned, sharing the story, being able to provide support, some guidance, some tips, you can really make a difference in someone who's just getting a diagnosis. You might be able to provide some information for a genetic counselor who's preparing to meet with a family to present some information that's, granted that people may be the same as they walk out of the office as they were going in, but that information it could be life-changing. And you, by sharing your stories on social media, could help prepare them to deliver the news with a little more context. And help, again, the genetic counselor might find your story, might find information on Project 8P that's going to make that person a better resource. Same with, there are doctors, there are medical students on social media. You telling your story can help inform all of them and make another patient's life and their family's life down the road a little bit better. These are just two somewhat recent examples of how social media made a small difference. I just happened to see Mindy Kaling when she turned 40, was going to donate $1,000 to 40 different organizations. So I have a friend, Luke Rosen, in New York, and he's planning a family conference for the KIF1A organization. They actually work with Dr. Chung. And I think their family conference is here, and they're raising travel stipends so that they can help more families from around the world get here. So I just tweeted back. Unfortunately, I was a little bit late, but she did donate to 40 organizations that she learned of, or at the suggestion of people who replied to her on Instagram and Twitter. And this is actually KIF1A. They were trying to reach a genetic counselor to help them prepare materials, and a few of us responded and tagged people. So I just tagged Fulgent Genetics and said, hey, could you help this organization? And they said, we'd love to. And so just by chiming in, it's a way to help different organizations raise money, connect. You might be able to connect with another family, an 8P family, and you could point them to Project 8P. So it's a way to be helpful with just a little bit of time without giving them money, but a way to share information. Another reason to bother is sometimes you can win prizes. So just little prizes, but I've been following Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and a few of you have been posting. So Rebecca did several tweets, Facebook posts, and I think even an Instagram. Do you mind giving that to her? And then, who has a Normal for Josephine, a Facebook page? Oh, I'll have Carrie run. Well, actually, here I'll round it up. So thank you. I have a joke with some of my social media friends. It didn't happen unless it's on social media. So we always try to get a selfie when we're at a conference. So other than winning small prizes, I have a love for social media. As I said, I've made friends. It's also, the first slide was how you can help specifically among other chromosome 8P hero families. This is a little bit broader. So you can connect with other organizations focused on rare diseases, and I have a list of some that might be of interest. You can connect with organizations that might deal with an aspect, maybe cognitive impairment. If there's any, I think Rebecca mentioned being able to connect with other families with disabilities. It might be a different disability, but maybe they know of a resource like the one you mentioned in Texas. So it's a great way to share what you know and also learn from them. Connect with some great organizations that focus on caregiving that might have some resources. I know the National Alliance for Caregiving, they're a little bit more policy focused, but they'll let you know there was a hearing, there's a bill going through Congress. I think that, I'm not sure the particulars, but I happened to see on their Twitter feed that there was a bill and there was a hearing on it in the House Energy and Commerce Committee. So they might have action alerts, and they'll have some material so you can check it out, see if it's something that's of interest to you, if you want to make a call to your representative and senator. And again, sometimes they do have policy, they may have resources, but also action alerts. And then the organizations that focus specifically on public policy, such as the National Organization for National Organization for Rare Disorders and Every Life Foundation for Rare Diseases. They're active on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and a little bit Instagram. And then they can, through those, by connecting with those on on social media, you can learn of free webinars, podcasts on topics that might be of interest to you. Events like Carrie mentioned, Rare Disease Week on Capitol Hill that Every Life Foundation for Rare Diseases organized. By following them on social media, you'll know when their application for travel stipends opens. You'll learn when there's a webinar to answer your questions and go over the week to take your, explain more. You have a chance to see maybe who else is going, who you might want to connect with. And then by reading you'll learn more about which public policies are being discussed. I think someone was asking about FDA and NIH appropriations. There's some great organizations, Alliance for a Stronger FDA. There's a Rally for Medical Research. By following them, you can find out what are good times to contact your member of the House or Senate and ask them to support strong funding for both agencies and reminding them how important both agencies are to the rare disease community. So if you're not active on social media now, you don't have to be on all of them. I'm not on all of them. You might want to think about which one, if you're considering being more active and talking about being your experience with a Project AP Hero. You might want to think about which one, you might already have a lot of people who will follow you on Facebook. Maybe you want to consider, am I ready to share some of my family's story, like Rebecca does. You could have a personal page. You could, some folks, I think Rebecca has a blog, and then a page for her daughter. Might be a little bit different than her personal page, because I know some people want to keep some details of their children's lives private, completely understandable, especially as children get older. Some people like to also consult with their son or daughter to see what they might be comfortable sharing publicly. Instagram is I'm new to the platform. I don't like it as much because you can't share links. And as I mentioned, public policy is important to me. I like to share action alerts, and I can't do that on Instagram. So it's great if I want to show someone what my lunch looked like. I posted a picture with Dr. Chung yesterday because I was so excited to meet her. I've heard so much about her from different rare disease communities, but it's a little harder to get people to take action on Instagram. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on Twitter because I find for me, in my experience, that's a better platform to use to reach policymakers, legislators, and I have a few researchers who I follow, and even some folks who are involved in the biopharmaceutical industry who they don't necessarily tweet the company line, but they'll tweet some of their thoughts on drug development in general. They might share their thoughts on FDA regulations. And there's more of a discussion on Twitter than I find on Facebook. In rare disease generally, I think it's a little bit different for support groups for specific conditions, and Instagram. So they all have their strengths, but I think one thing to think about is, where do you already have followers? So if you work full-time, if you're in sales, depending on what you do, you might have a lot of people on LinkedIn. So what I would ask you is, how can you, I know LinkedIn is more business, but maybe on Rare Disease Day, you could share that you have someone in your life who's really important to you, who's affected by a rare disease. And today's the day I want to tell you about that. And then if you're interested in learning more, why don't you check out Project 8P? And so just use where you already have your audience. I'm going to walk you through how you can use Twitter. And I'm happy to talk to anyone afterwards. My email's on the slide. But think about using the audience that you've already built up, how you can help raise awareness and help achieve some of the goals of Project 8P, and then support the rare disease community as a whole, because by being here, you're already part of the rare disease community. And you have even more friends and a larger extended family than you might think. These are just a few things to think about. Melissa Hogan is actually on the Patient Engagement Collaborative that the FDA representative mentioned, and she's a patient representative at FDA. She has a son with a rare disease called MPS who's in a clinical trial, and we co-presented And this is she had a few good points that I thought were really good. You know, if you're looking to raise awareness, you can really use any of the 4 platforms. If you're looking to do a call to action, I would argue probably Facebook or Twitter a little bit better for those, because you can more easily include links, for instance, than you can in Instagram. And you can really educate on all of them, but then you want to think about, well, who am I trying to educate? If I'm trying to educate genetic counselors, maybe that's Twitter and LinkedIn, because I'm not likely to be personally friends with them on Facebook. And we're missing this one, because a lot more that's on the slide. It's supposed to be on that slide. Oh. Okay, so I don't know how to do a fancy fade. This is new. These are things that I didn't think about when I joined Twitter. So these are just some of the large universe of who you can reach on social media. Like I said, I was working for the biopharmaceutical industry trade association when I got on Twitter, but I just didn't think about all these other folks who I'd be able to reach. And what I love about particularly Twitter is it's a two-way conversation. I was doing a presentation in Sioux Falls last year and talking about how patients and patient organizations can engage directly with FDA and NIH. And while I was talking, Dr. Francis Collins, who's the director of NIH, responded to my tweet because I had a question about the NIH budget. And where else, like, Dr. Collins is not going to be answering emails from me. I'm not likely to meet him at a fancy event, but he got back to me on Twitter because I was researching on a slide and I got concerned. The document that was on the NIH website showed a huge cut in funding to rare disease research, and I didn't understand. Dr. Collins, in particular, has been very supportive of, he's done some rare disease research himself, and he's been a great advocate. He talks about what you can learn from rare diseases can often be applied to more common diseases, and talks about it, not only is it the right thing to do, but it's a good investment. And so I couldn't understand why he and the agency would cut research. Well, it turned out it was based on the president makes a budget recommendation, which Congress often ignores, which was the case. So the president recommended cutting the NIH budget, and generally support for NIH is nonpartisan. Both Republicans and Democrats support it. It's a good investment. NIH is very smart. They award grants in all 50 states. There's a local multiplier. So generally, members of both parties are super supportive, and they were last year. They increased the NIH budget rather than cutting it, but what was on the NIH website showed a huge cut. So Dr. Collins got back to me. So that's just a long way of saying you can get responses from people on social media that you might not have their phone number, they might not pick up when you call them. And like I said, there are some great researchers they weigh in with their thoughts, what's working in drug development, what's not. They'll answer questions. They'll try to track down resources. If you're trying to find a journal article that's behind a paywall, sometimes the academics can get it for you. You can get a lot of resources online. And again, you could be the resource for someone who's newer to the rare disease community or the 8P community than you are. Because you may not realize it, but I'm pretty sure every person in this room is a resource and has knowledge that could be helpful to someone else. I like this, as I mentioned. I found a lot of friends on Twitter, and I thought this was a good way to sum that up. So this is just a basic for those of you not on Twitter. And one of the presentations that I've given at Global Genes, where Carrie used to work, is how to make a difference on social media in less than 15 minutes a day. Because you don't need to be on social media every day. Especially after spending some time with you for the last 2 days, I understand your lives are incredibly busy with therapy appointments and education and jobs and families. I totally get it. There are some days, as much as I love Twitter, some days my 15 minutes a day might be I'm watching TV and I'm scrolling through, reading comments, retweeting something, or we'll get to, maybe I'm going to focus that day or adding followers. I'm not asking you to commit every day to spending time on social media, and you don't have to do that to be effective. This can fit into the nooks and crannies of your life. Not when you're driving, please, but if you're taking the subway home while you're watching TV and you have a little bit of downtime, flip through during the commercials if you're not fast forwarding through those. You can still make a difference without a huge time commitment. These are, again, these slides will be available. It was just to give you an idea of the different organizations and entities that are out there that might be of interest to follow. In addition to, your one must follow is Chromosome 8p, since you're all here. And that's what brought us all together. So the bio, just again, a few little things. So you met Robert, is Carrie's husband, and is really helpful with registration and the information desk. What I wanted to point out about his is, Carrie and Robert have a daughter who had Gaucher disease, and so that's one of the hashtags, so that other people who are interested in the disease will find them if they do a hashtag search. And then since Carrie and Robert are active in the rare disease community as a whole, he has that on there as well. And then for the link, he drives people back to the organization that Carrie and Robert founded in honor of their daughter. And then for mine, since I don't advocate for my specific rare disease, I again just use rare disease as a whole. So if people are searching the hashtag, they might find me. For hashtags, this is helpful for me to visualize. It's like a label on a file folder. So for the last 3 days, I've been checking hashtag Project 8p and hashtag Chromosome 8p like a madwoman, looking for anyone who has been sharing so that I can retweet and like, and basically just encourage anyone who's being active on social from here. Global Genes has an amazing event every year with a lot of good resources, and it's a wonderful opportunity to meet other advocates, rare disease advocates from around the world. So when I'm there, I'm going to look at, they have 4 breakout sessions at one time, and sometimes I want to go to 2 or 3 of them. And of course, you can only be in one room at a time, so I might go back and check the hashtag. So if there's another conference that you're interested in and you can't get there, a great way that you can keep up with key points of the discussion is finding out what the hashtag is and going on and seeing what are people saying about it. Sometimes, ideally they have a live stream so you don't miss it, but even not, sometimes I miss events and I go and I'll read through, use the hashtag to see what people are saying about it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, but mainly on Twitter, because that's where I find people often when you're looking for quotes from speakers, key takeaways. And really for Twitter, it tends to be live. So this is a mention, one of the things that I do, I can't just sit still and watch TV. I have to be doing something else, and I'd prefer it not to be cleaning. So I'll just go through, and Global Genes is a good one because they follow a lot of people. So I'll go on and see, well, who are they following who I don't already follow, and then I'll check them out to see if it's someone who, I generally will see what kind of how often have they tweeted. So if I look at Carrie's profile right now, I'm going to be like, you know what? Carrie hasn't been tweeting, so if I didn't already follow her because I loved her, I might not choose to follow her because she hasn't tweeted recently. She's active on Facebook, but she hasn't tweeted recently, so I might not follow her. There's someone who tweets every day to the Ellen Show, trying to get a specific mother on her show. I would never follow that person because to me, it's kind of like spam because he's tweeting the same thing every day, and that doesn't really add value to my I want to see someone who's sharing good articles who I might not otherwise see, who's sharing really good thoughts about their experience with rare disease, thoughts on what FDA or NIH wants to do better. Is the organization, do they have action alerts on issues that are important to me? Those are the kind of the things that I check when I'm looking to see, is it someone I want to follow? Like, who's going to add value for me? And so why do followers matter? So if I have 5 followers and I tweet something, that's 5 people who have the possibility of seeing what I say. So the more followers you have, the more people who see what you say. And there's an exponential factor, which is how you all can help Project 8P. Because Project 8P, I think they have about 130 or so followers on Twitter right now. But if each of those people retweet them, then they're going to grow. Because if I've got 6,200 followers, so if I retweet Chromosome 8P, then they're going to have, I've just multiplied the number of people who could potentially see it by a large factor. So, and once you follow someone, they're likely to follow you back. I should have mentioned that in the last slide. So that's another way that you can help people. So as you add your followers, that means more people are likely to see what you have. So if you're an organization or an individual, and you're trying to promote an action alert, so I added this one because there was some discussion of 21st century cures. There was a day of action. So it was great. So NORD has a lot of followers, but all the 35 people who retweeted, that meant a lot more people saw the message than just who follows NORD. And for this one, Global Genes has a program where they will match families of patients, whether adult or children, living with a rare disease with medical students to help medical students understand what truly living with a rare disease is like, so that doctors can get a better sense of what happens when a patient and a family leaves their office. And so they need to find enough families in the area of where they have students who are willing to participate. And so, again, when you find a program like that that you think is valuable, by retweeting, you're getting that message to a lot more people. And it's a way to amplify the messages, public policy issues, or programs that you think are important. And I think I have a 5-minute, yeah, so I'm going to skip through some of these. I already mentioned avoiding tweeting the same thing over and over. Quality over quantity, as I mentioned, you don't have to be on Twitter or any other platform every day. And my pet peeve is hashtags. Use them thoughtfully. I'm not a fan of hashtag lunch, hashtag Saturday, hashtag brother. Pick meaningful ones. You know, Project 8P, rare disease, disability. Think of what people might be looking for and how a specific post could be of interest to them. And why I really like Twitter. Facebook is also a great tool, especially since so many of us are already on it. So a way to help Project 8P is sharing things like a YouTube interview, a news article, a journal article. If Project 8P shares it, by you sharing it, you're going to really increase the number of people who see it. And Facebook now makes it really easy to fundraise for an organization. A lot of times if you tag an organization, you'll have the opportunity to add a post. And I've seen a lot that do really well, especially and on your birthday, you can pick an organization. So it's another way to help your organization be even more successful, to have the ability to host another conference, have the ability to offer even more travel stipends to enable people to be here who otherwise wouldn't. These are all tips on how to promote your rare disease story from a toolkit, and there's a link in the last, because I'm going to go through really quickly because I want to make sure we get to I am a policy nerd. Like I mentioned, I worked on Capitol Hill. And when you think about the fact that only 5% of rare diseases have an FDA-approved treatment, that indicates 95% of them don't. So clearly there is room for improvement in drug development and research. And 21st Century Cures was awesome. It streamlined some things. It authorized money for FDA and NIH, and it was a wonderful program. But there's still a lot more work to be done. And in some cases, we have to fight to keep the benefits that we already have. So I have a pre-existing condition, and I got my health care through the exchange last year, and I'd like that to continue to be an option for me, because I wouldn't have been able to leave my last job if I didn't know that I could get insurance through the exchange. So for me personally, I'm pretty invested in having the Affordable Care Act or another option to make sure that I can't be discriminated against for a pre-existing condition. And I have friends whose children cost them more than $2 million, and I don't want anyone to have a cap on how much is spent on them, because I'm not willing to put a price on their life. So things like health care. Last year there was a bill to weaken the Americans with Disabilities Act. Not in favor of that either. So that's one way that I can, in addition to calling my own representative, in addition to calling my own senators, I can raise awareness of those issues and encourage other people to take action who might not be aware of these threats. Because as I mentioned, I know we're all really busy, jobs, medical appointments, therapy appointments, life. And so making sure that other people are aware that it's an issue, giving them talking points, spreading the information from other organizations. And what's nice on Twitter is you can tag your representative and senators, and they get a notification. So I make sure, this is my congressman. He's a member of the Congressional Rare Disease Caucus. He was one of 4 members who in the last week created the ALS caucus. He's a member of the Cystic Fibrosis Caucus. He opposed the weakening the Americans with Disabilities Act. He has opposed repealing the Affordable Care Act. So every time he does something that I appreciate, that I've asked him to do, I thank him on Twitter. Because every time I meet with him or his staff, I post a picture. Because if you meet with a member of Congress, the only people who know about it are people who are in the room, unless you post it on social media. And so I ask him to vote a certain way, and then I follow up and thank him. I have to say I'm always respectful, because it's very important to build a relationship with a legislator, because I want to keep coming back to him as there are new policy issues, as I have new asks. And I don't agree with every vote, and I let him know when I don't like a vote, but I do that privately. So you can also, as I mentioned, social media is a way to amplify the voices of organizations doing good work, whether it's a specific project, it's helping them spread the word about an event, and you can also help them raise awareness of policy issues and ask, especially when they're asking for action, because you can help them reach more people. And then these are just some, if you're interested, a few more resources. I think we might have a minute and a half, but I will be here, so I'm happy to answer any questions. But if we have questions in the minute and a half, go for it.
Thank you, Stephanie.